One of the 6 women who acquitted George Zimmerman now says she feels she owes Trayvon Martin's parents an apology because she believes Zimmerman, in her words, got away with murder. The breaking news this hour, the only minority juror in the Zimmerman trial is speaking out for the first time, and she's showing her face to the world. In an interview with ABC News, juror B29 revealed she initially wanted to find Zimmerman guilty of second-degree murder, but in the end, she says the panel couldn't convict him based on Florida law. She says she's still struggling with the verdict. Let's bring in Lisa Bloom. She's a legal analyst. Also joining us, CNN legal analyst Paul Callan. He's a criminal defense attorney and a former prosecutor. Guys, thanks very much for coming in. Let me read the full quote to you, Paul, and I'll start with you. This is what this woman, known only as Maddie, we see her. She didn't want to reveal her whole name. She's Black, Hispanic. She says, George Zimmerman got away with murder, but you can't get away from God. And at the end of the day, he's going to have a lot of questions and answers he has to deal with, but the law couldn't prove it. Paul, what did you make of that?
Well, I know a lot of people are going to be shocked by this, that a juror so soon after the trial would make a statement like this. But lawyers who try these cases see this happen all the time. Jurors have buyer's remorse. She's listening to the press. She's reevaluating. She's feeling kind of guilty about her vote. So she's making this statement. I do note, though, that she does say that in following the law, prosecutors had not proven guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. And, you know, the thing you have to remember is you can't reopen a case just because a juror has had a change of heart post-verdict. You really have to show something improper happened in the jury room. And we'll have to hear the details of the interview to see if that develops.
Is this damaging to the prosecution, Lisa, the way they operated, the way they conducted their case?
Well, I've been very critical of this prosecution team throughout this trial. I think the evidence was there, and I think the dis-ease that she expresses with this verdict is what many of us feel. The evidence, in my opinion, was there, and I watched every minute of this trial. But the prosecution failed to argue effectively the strongest physical evidence it had in the case. Their closing argument was the worst I've ever seen in a high-profile case. They essentially were arguing reasonable doubt, just like the defense. And so, of course, the jury came to this conclusion. This juror, though, felt in her heart that this was a murder case. She felt that something was there. We know that the jurors initially voted 3-3 to convict or to acquit. I think that the prosecution had done its job, had argued its evidence, had been forceful with the theory of the case in closing arguments like prosecutors are in every other case. There could very well have been an acquittal here.
You agree with her, Paul?
No, I totally disagree. And I've tried a lot of murder cases as a prosecutor and as a defense attorney. This case, it's a horrific tragedy. Trayvon Martin did not deserve to die, but it was a mistake by George Zimmerman that was made because he thought that Trayvon was up to no good. And it's quite possible, under the theory presented by the defense, that Trayvon Martin had circled back and jumped George Zimmerman. And frankly, there wasn't evidence to contradict the self-defense claim. So I don't think any prosecutor could have gotten a conviction. And I would also say, another reason I disagree with Lisa, a lot of times juries come in based on emotion. And, of course, the emotion of a 17-year-old young man dying like this is so great, and it's such a horrific killing. But it would go up on appeal. It would have been thrown out by an appellate court. So I think, in the end, the jury did the right thing on the evidence they had.
All right, Lisa, listen to this, because here's another excerpt of what she told ABC News, this juror B29, as she's known, Maddie. You can't put the man in jail, even though in our hearts we felt he was guilty, but we had to grab our hearts and put it aside and look at the evidence. Now, contrast that to what juror B37 told Anderson Cooper about 10 days ago.
Did you also want to find him guilty of something?
I wanted to find him guilty of not using his senses, but you can't fault anybody. I mean, you can't charge anybody for not being, I guess, I don't know. You can't fault him. You can't charge him with anything because he didn't do anything unlawful.
All right, Lisa, you see what these women are saying now, but go ahead.
Well, sure. And this juror is absolutely right. You need evidence to convict. You need more than a gut feeling. That's why the prosecutors should have done what they do in every case, which is you take the jury instructions, you take the evidence you have, you present a theory of the case, and you match it up. You show how the physical evidence shows that George Zimmerman was lying, that the gun was holstered inside his pants behind him. It's not possible he could have been laying down with Trayvon Martin on top of him, and Trayvon Martin saw the gun. That was the essence of the self-defense case, and the prosecution didn't argue that. So in my view, because the prosecution did a half-hearted job in this case, we got an acquittal, and these jurors are absolutely right. With the case the way it was presented to them, an acquittal was the only possible outcome.
Quickly, Paul, wrap it up.
This was the most vicious prosecution team you could assign to a case. I mean, they've been accused of ethical violations. They pulled out every stop to try to prove guilt on the evidence they had, and it just wasn't there, Wolf. And sometimes it's just not there, and an injustice is done. And I think we're always going to feel badly about this verdict, but the jury did the right thing.
Paul Callan and Lisa Bloom, both of you, good analysis. Thanks very much.